I'm Deacon Mike Houghton. I'm the Executive Director of an apostolate called Unleash the Gospel at Work. Our mission is to help women and men joyfully live their faith and witness to Christ and the gospel in the workplace. This is one of several videos that we produce to further our mission. Today's topic is finding calm in anxiety. All of us struggle with anxiety to some degree. Some find it to be an occasional nuisance, while others find it to be a crippling disease that significantly impacts almost every aspect of their life. Many people who are over the age of 50, like me, tend to view anxiety as a weakness rather than something that's just a natural part of being human. We use other names for it, like worrying and agonizing, terms that are more familiar and less intimidating to us. But whatever name we use for it, the result is the same. We experience a feeling of nervousness or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. Anxiety is on the rise in our world, especially among the young. Prescriptions for anxiety medications for young people are at an all-time high, and it's far more common today for younger people to see a therapist than it was even a decade ago. It's not clear if this is driven by an actual increase in anxiety or by a greater willingness to address it. But anxiety isn't just for the young. Older people are anxious about keeping their jobs, about having enough money to retire, about their own health, about caring for elderly parents, like so many other things. For many of us who are Christians, we try to hide our anxiety. After all, we believe in Jesus Christ, and He told us to be not afraid. So if we show the world that we're anxious, then we're perhaps in some way admitting that our belief in Jesus isn't strong enough for us to overcome some of our biggest challenges. This is unfortunate. Jesus never told us that being a disciple would mean that we don't have crosses to carry. Rather, He told us to pick up our crosses and to carry them. And sometimes our crosses can lead to an understandable bout of anxiety. He also told us that He's with us in our most difficult times, and so we can find relief and support to get us through the tough times which can cause us to be anxious. He won't eliminate our anxiety, but He will help us through it. Like many other Christians, I often turn to words of Scripture to give me comfort when I find myself experiencing anxiety. And it's quite helpful. The Word of God is powerful and it's living, so there's always good to be found in reading it when we're confronted with any problems. I also turn to prayer. Not rote prayer like the rosary, but rather spontaneous prayer. I open up, I tell God all my concerns, and I listen for His advice. Years of ministry have taught me that when I make a statement like this, some people will scratch their head and say, "How does he hear God's advice?" That's a big topic to tackle on its own, but suffice to say for now that years of prayer and spiritual advisors have taught me how to listen to what God has to say. A few years ago, I was in a bit of a tough spot. Like so many other people, I was trying to believe that COVID was over, but there was still a fear that maybe it could resurface, or that perhaps some other pandemic might come looking for us. My job was ending, and I was unclear about what would be next for me. I was by no means in a panic, but I was feeling unsettled about where I would be and what I would be doing down the road. And so, one day on a long bike ride, I asked God for His help. What can I do to help me be better able to handle the ups and downs of life and to find joy in a world that's often so alarming? How can I be a joyful missionary disciple when things don't seem to be all that joyful? That day, He gave me 4 things that I can do to help me relax and to see His support in my own circumstances, whatever those circumstances may be. I wrote them down, and I refer to them regularly. I found that they're most applicable in almost any circumstances of anxiety or worry or fear. Being that I'm a Catholic deacon, it may seem a bit odd that these 4 things aren't inherently religious. In fact, an atheist could find value in them as much as a Christian, although a Christian like me sees God's hand in all of them. Now, part of me says that these are personal and that I should keep them to myself. After all, The fact that these work for me doesn't mean that they would work for you or someone else. But another part of me says, why not share them with others? If someone else can possibly benefit from what God has shown to me, why wouldn't I share it? And so today, I offer you 4 things to consider when you find yourself feeling anxious. It's my prayer that you do in fact find them to be helpful. I encourage you to keep 2 things in mind as you learn about them. First, they may not be applicable to you, and that's fine. Even if none work for you, perhaps you can take the time in prayer to ask God what you can do in your circumstances. And second, be creative in how you think about these action steps. Don't just listen to them as I describe them. Rather, consider how the general concept may be applicable in your life and in your own personal circumstances. So here are the 4 things that I find could help you find calm in anxiety. First, take time to enjoy nature. Nature has a beautiful way of resetting our attitude. It's like the great Control-Alt-Delete that God has given us to rethink, to recalibrate, to re-energize. When we see the grandeur of all that God has created, we realize that whatever problems we're facing, as difficult as they may be, can be seen through a fresh set of eyes that offer us hope. Take a work example. I can find myself trying harder and harder to write a podcast, to put together a slide deck for an important presentation, or to bring in more funding to make our UTG at Work apostolate viable. I can find myself thinking, I'll just keep working harder until it's done. Now, sitting at my computer working away is important, and it's necessary, but it's not life-giving. After a while, I can lose focus, and I find myself in a bit of a brain fog as I keep trying harder and harder with fewer and fewer results to show for it. I can burn out, find myself being less productive with each passing minute. But if I step outside for a moment, smell the fresh air, take in the beauty of nature, go for a brisk walk, everything changes. There's a sort of reset of my mind that occurs where the problems that I was working on fade away, and I take a moment to appreciate the beauty of all that God has created. And when this happens, there's a mental and a physical relaxation that comes over me, and I find myself at peace. And what's truly amazing is that when I eventually do return to whatever task I was stressing over before, it's much clearer to me as to how to get it done without nearly as much effort as I had previously thought. By way of another example, I'm in that stage of life where I'm caring for an elderly parent. This is something that I wasn't prepared for. It just kind of snuck up on me. I had no idea how emotionally draining it can be, how much patience it takes, and how much time I have to be willing to give for things that I often feel like I shouldn't be doing at all. It's easy to get wrapped up in a bizarre combination of sympathy and frustration that can take my mind away from other things that I need to be doing. But if I step out into nature for just a bit, if I go for a walk, if I stroll through the park, I find that my negative emotions subside just a bit as I see the wonder of God's creation all around me. I can see that this is all part of the circle of life. Mom cared for me when I was young, and now it's my turn to care for her. Someday, God willing, my children will do the same for me. I can't allow myself to lean into the negative. I need to instead reach for the positive. When you find yourself anxious, take time to enjoy nature. There's no better way of seeing the relative smallness of our problems than when we see them amidst the immensity of God's grandeur. Second, be grateful for what I have rather than ungrateful for what I don't. It's very easy to be worried about what we don't have, or perhaps what we think we need. If only I had more money, or better health, or a more supportive family, then things would be great. And yet, we all know people who have lots of money, or good health, or supportive families, but who are anxious. Always wanting something that we don't have is a trap from the evil one. he tries to get us to forget everything that God has already done for us and instead get angry with him for what we don't have. This drives a wedge between us and God because we cry out to him for something that we want but we don't get, while at the same time we completely forget all that he has already done for us. It's human nature to want things that we don't have. In some regards, this is a good thing because it keeps us always working and trying to improve our lot in life. Without such drive, we would fall into stagnation and society would never move forward. But can also be a curse if it's taken too far and we find ourselves coveting our neighbor's possessions, desperately seeking a miracle cure, or looking to win the lotto to lift us out of our troubles. Sometimes we need to make a conscious effort to stop and to give thanks for what we do have. I had a spiritual advisor who told me that he kept a simple journal of gratitude. Every night he would list 5 things in his journal that went well that day. I tried this myself for a while, and I found it to be a good tool for being grateful. The gratefulness that we should feel for the blessings that we've received in life is easily overshadowed by the ungratefulness that we feel for the blessings that we hoped for but didn't get. This is human nature, and it's reinforced by false images of the perfect lives of people that we see on social media. Don't fall for it. Life itself is a gift from God. Were it not for him, we would have nothing. In fact, there would be nothing. The very fact that we exist is a reason to be grateful. So make a conscious effort to be grateful for what you have rather than being ungrateful for what you don't have. Number 3, don't obsess over the metrics. I come from a long career in manufacturing. Everything we did was measured and captured on a scorecard. In my 4 car and truck assembly plant assignments, I was measured by the minute. Metrics have become a part of who I am and of how I think. Now, metrics in and of themselves aren't bad. It's good to know what we hope to accomplish before we begin a task so that we can assess whether we're making progress or not. In fact, I would argue that the church herself would greatly benefit from some metrics on her performance because she tends to run far too loosely at times. But metrics and measurements can be taken too far. I have a tendency to get hyper-focused on them to the point where it causes me to be anxious about things that really don't matter, or perhaps don't matter enough to cause for anxiety. How many trucks did we sell last quarter? How much money did we bring in last month? How many people came to Mass this past Sunday? And how much did they donate? These things all matter, but obsessing over them is useless. Understanding them and making judgments to improve them is helpful, but obsessing over them can take over the mind. In fact, if we become too focused on our metrics, we can do things to meet them which are actually contrary to the bigger goal that we are trying to accomplish. We see this sometimes in schools who prepare their students for scoring well on a standardized test, rather than teaching them in such a way that the standardized test will reflect what they already know. The goal is never to make a metric green. The goal is to perform in such a way that green metrics reflect our success. The key to successfully using metrics is to find a balanced position where you can use them for improvement, but not make them our mammon. As Jesus said, you cannot serve both God and mammon. We serve God. Metrics can be useful in showing us if we're doing well along the way, but they can't become the goal. Metrics can be helpful, but never allow yourself to obsess over them. And number 4, play golf and not pinball. When I was younger, I played a lot of pinball. I liked the game, but if you stop and think about it, pinball is a game of reacting. We react to how the ball is tossed around the field as it hits bumpers and elastic bands and launchers. A really good pinball player will have some control over how he or she plays, but even the best players need to react. Now golf, on the other hand, is sort of the opposite. When I approach a shot, I can only think about that shot, or I'll get distracted. If I'm thinking about putting while I'm driving, it won't go well. If I'm thinking about driving when I'm chipping from the fringe, I won't be focused on what I need to do to make that shot a success. Unlike pinball, golf is all about planning and executing that shot that I need to make right now, rather than reacting to what happens to me on the golf course. Sometimes, when I have too much going on, I start playing pinball. I have to get my homily done, finish the laundry, reply to emails, and call one of my kids who asked for help with something. And then the doorbell rings and my mom calls asking me to take her somewhere. And so I start playing pinball, just reacting to what's coming at me. Sometimes this is actually a little bit fun. I can feel like I'm doing a great job of multitasking. But in truth, when I take this approach, nothing gets done well, but lots of things get done poorly. To get things done well, I have to take my time to plan and execute my next shot to the best of my ability and not just react. This often isn't easy to do. It takes focus and it takes practice. Sometimes I have to go back to action step 1 and take a few minutes to enjoy nature before I can really focus. But it's necessary. So when the tasks are piling up, don't play pinball. Play golf instead. You may not get everything done, but the things that you do complete will be much better quality than if you were simply reacting to what comes at you. So, there you have it. The 4 steps which I've found for dealing with anxiety are: number 1, take time to enjoy nature. Number 2, be grateful for what I have rather than ungrateful for what I don't. Number 3, don't obsess over the metrics. And number 4, play golf and not pinball. They aren't a cure-all. And in order for them to work, it requires that I make a conscious effort to embrace and to live them. But I myself have found them to be helpful, and it's my prayer that they are helpful to you as well. Thanks for watching. To learn more about UTG at Work, visit our website, which is utgatwork.org. Click the Join button to access all of our resources and to receive our monthly newsletter. Now go in peace, glorifying the Lord by your life.